hopefully one, and it should be showing up.
Popped up as well.
Good morning, everyone. It's a Sunday morning where we should be out playing paintball, but we're stuck at home with all of this stuff, and I guess it could be worse. So it's a positive thing. This is our first live interview process time in paintball therapy, and I have John, Frank, and Dustin joining me this morning. John is the owner operator of MidWest Clothing, and Dustin is his teammate. We're going to be covering a lot of bases today. So, John, why don't you start out?
Give me just a hot second. I'm trying to share this stuff right now.
That's okay. We're at one right now.
Yeah.
We have time. We have nothing but time. And it's exactly as I said. People would start slow, and then it would monsoon, and friends would request, and all of that. So, Frank, why don't you tell us how you started MidWest Clothing, please?
MidWest Clothing started in technically 2010, I want to say. Our official company branding with the LLC and everything was 2016. With that, it actually started with back in the days when we actually sold stuff on M. Carter Brown and PB Nation. Me just trying to find a way to pay for paintball. So I went to the local fabric stores, Joann Fabrics, Michael's, Walmart, bought fabric, made headbands, sold them online. To which in turn my buddy Levi Pearson, who played for Superior Paintball at the time, ended up hitting me up. Was huge into the Sandana community. Needed some stuff sewn, which I had no idea what he was sending me at the time. But I was like, yeah, man, I can make some headbands for you. Like, send me whatever fabric you need sewn. Like, not a problem. And in turn, 3 days later, I had a Sandana 10-ounce jersey sitting in my front doorway at my apartment, and I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, I don't know what this stuff is. And I cut it up, sewed it, sent it to him, and he was like, this is amazing. And as we joked, I was actually even talking to my buddy Levi a lot lately, because he's just doing deliveries now, and I'm just sitting there working at Costco most of the time. We've been texting back and forth a lot. And it's kind of a reminder of when I originally started doing this, his comment was, how far down the rabbit hole do you want to go? And at that point, I was just like a standard, I'm just going to sew some stuff for people. Like, I never expected to turn it into a company that sponsors pro teams and sponsors local teams, regional teams. Like, at that point, I was just like, I just want to sew some stuff to buy some paint this weekend when I go to Air Assault and go play, or go out to Annandale and go play. Like, I just wanted to pay for my practices at that point. So.
And it helped you build your relationships with paintball players around the globe, and gets you more addicted and closer and more intense in the game.
Yeah, pretty much. Later in 2015, I think it was, John Dresser actually featured MidWest Clothing on their homepage, because I bought a bunch of, that was when Cohen was getting bought out, sold out, when Gavin over there sold off the company. Brought in, I went and bought, my buddy Andrew Lee actually worked for Cohen at the time. I was able to purchase a bunch of the Renegade fabric, which at that point too, no one had Renegade fabric, fresh off the bolt fabric. I turned around and made a bunch of headbands out of it, and John Dresser saw my post about sales for headbands or something like that, and actually shared it to the front homepage. And T2 just hopped in, it looks like. Hey T2. With that being said, John Dresser shared it, just the post about selling headbands of Renegade fabric, which then also helped blow up the company, which then later in turn brought in Aaron Freyer at the time, being a graphic designer and media social connoisseur kind of guy. Me being just selling my stuff on Facebook and PB Nation, M. Carter Brown. I didn't know how to set up a website. I didn't know how to do any graphic design stuff. I was literally just buying stuff off of a shelf, which helped then in turn with Aaron's connections, just from working at that time. It was with Paintball, or was it Paintball Minnesota Paintball? MM Pro.
Paintball Pro.
MM Pro is a company. Yep, MM Pro at the time he was working there. He had his relations with Raza, which at the time was like Todd Martinez and can't remember the guy's name. I want to say it was Chris or something like that. Was the main like lead sales rep dude. Which then helps me get into doing like tech tees and custom pants and stuff like that, which now is transitioned into me working directly with like Richie, who's their lead designer. Josh Allen was their previous designer, which I worked very closely with. I still talk to Josh every couple of weeks. I'll hit him up with ideas for stuff. And then now Big Los is my main sales rep over there that I talk to.
Big Bone Brigade.
Yeah, Big Bone Brigade. That dude always hooks me up with stuff. I love working with those guys. They are amazing to work with. Whatever I want, they can get me. To the point where like I can go to them at events, and like I know in a World Cup when I was playing 10-man with Hostile Grounds, like I literally sat there for like an hour talking to Richie about some of the new products that they're working on and some of the new templates, and he sent me all of those. So there'll be some new like hoodies and new shorts and stuff like that this year that we'll be doing. But yeah, that like also brought into, like I saw T2 hopped in. That brought us into like 2 years ago, we did a charity raffle with them, or not really a charity raffle, like a charity giveaway for kind of like an in-need paintball player out in the Boston area. I think his name was Shay, ended up winning the full package. But like us and like we partnered up with at the time, we were sponsored Seattle Thunder. So Corey Field donated our actual breast cancer awareness shocker because at the time they were shooting shockers. And he was getting new ones or whatever. So he donated his old one that he shot for like the whole year to this kid, Shay. And we like donated some pants, jerseys, a bunch of stuff. I know like Exalt hopped into a bunch of other companies like all hopped in and donated some stuff. So
that's fantastic. Always trying to do the right thing and help people out is kind of a paintball way for all the destruction that some of us do to hotel rooms and rental cars. We try to make it up with some positive acts of kindness. So that's fantastic. Now, go ahead.
I was saying that's kind of always been the thing with Midwest Clothing is like a lot of people like will ask me like for one thing, it's like our headbands are only $20. You look at a lot of the other companies popping up right now, they're charging 30, 35, 40s. Thanks for that comment, T2, man. I appreciate it so much. T2 just commented, you guys are the best in the biz.
Yeah, I'm popping it up on the screen here, so people should be able to see it.
Yeah. So, I mean, like that's the thing is like a lot of companies are charging 30, 40, 50 bucks for headbands, 70 bucks, 80 bucks, depending on what company you are. For me, it's never about money. I literally donate a shit ton of money right now just to donations to charities. The big one right now that we support is the Paintballers for the Puzzle, which is like an autism awareness group based out of New York area. Robert Pennilly, I think I pronounced his last name wrong, but kind of runs that group. It's all about autism awareness. We just released a new set of headbands for them. Literally, like headbands cost me $10 to make. I'm selling them for $20. I'm donating $5, and I'm eating the cost on shipping pretty much for them. So do the math on that. I make $1 for my time to even cut and sew all these.
Right.
That's kind of been the biggest thing for Midwest Clothing. It was never it's enough to cover my cost to like make, play paintball, but it's not going to make me $1 million. Like that's always been the kind of the concept with Midwest Clothing is it's enough to cover my overhead, enough to keep it afloat, and just enough to allow me to like, go play a national event. I'm not buying, Mercedes Benzes or anything like that,
I can attest. I almost hit your car in the parking lot the other day.
Yeah, thanks.
Almost. Hashtag almost.
I want we're talking about the Frankie's like charity work.
Yes.
I will say Minnesota has done a really good job for doing charity work in terms of paintball community. But I think this year, Midwest is probably the only one that's really pushing that. Like from a specific standpoint. The what was the name of that the giant big game that was run at MN Pro, Frank? Do you remember?
That was the Challenge for
Children?
Children's. That was a Challenge for Children's event.
This was
which,
this last year was the first year that they didn't do it.
Yeah.
But shout out to Matt Ames with MN Pro for putting that on, because that was a great concept. The whole idea behind it was a great concept. And I think with everything that you're doing in terms of, donating things for cancer is a good fill to that void that we have in that in the community as a whole, not just Minnesota. But
yeah, I know with Matt Ames, the Challenge for Children, which Midwest Clothing participated in the last 2 years of it. That's how I met, like people like Mike Paxson and B. Youngs, which two amazing people that just go above and beyond just to help the community. And then, Colt Roberts too, which is up on the screen right now. Nick Sloviak was there last couple of years. Phil Schrader. We have Josh Turbin from Carbon and stuff like that. We're all out there at that event. Like those guys all are kind of what made me really want to get into donating and helping and doing all the crazy stuff is that I remember the last year we were there, me and Aaron Freyer were literally trashed by the time that we were done with ceremonies. And I think we actually literally took all the money we made for that event and bought jerseys with it.
Yeah.
Because that money then turned around and went back to the community. Like I remember that I think we pretty much bought everyone's jerseys because it was a random live auction, and we were just throwing out numbers because we didn't care. We were just like, today it doesn't matter how much money we made. It's all about helping the kids. And I know with Matt Ames, a lot of that was to go to the Children's Hospital in Minnesota, which for him I think he had a heart disease or heart issue when growing up as a child.
Yes.
I can't remember if he had a transplant or if it was just more of a lot of surgeries. And that was the reason why he wanted to do the Challenge for Children's event, was because it was to give back like all the money that he ended up getting pretty much to help with his recovery. And that's why me and Aaron were really just throwing money out at those events because we were like, we don't even care at this point. It's all about for helping the community and helping out like a local Minnesota hospital. So I remember that one because I ended up actually screwing my truck up at the end of that event. And I think we did $300 or $3,000 in sales and ended up spending $3,000 in donations. And then I crashed my truck on the way home because I would have been up for 72 hours straight sewing headbands and stuff like that, and had to pay $500 to get my truck fixed. But at the end, I was just like, whatever. At the end, it was helping people. That's all that mattered to me.
Yep. Absolutely. That's fantastic. And I'll just keep the children's thing playing in the background because it's fantastic and people are paying attention. So where I usually start is asking how players got involved in the sport of paintball. So I will open that up to Dustin and Frankie at the same time because you guys are brothers. So at this point, I'm going to let go and let you guys roll out. So tell me how you guys got your start in the game.
Dustin, you hop in first.
Yeah, since I've been around the sport a little bit longer than Frank has. I started, it would have been 2001 or 2002. A buddy of mine, I lived out in the country, middle of nowhere. My buddy had kind of gotten into paintball, just going to the local sporting goods shops. And he lived on a farm. So I remember this really specific one winter. His name was Frankie will know him because he used to play with us. Knew that he played paintball. My parents knew that he played paintball. Didn't want me getting involved in any of that. I had my own money because I was working a job and went to the sporting goods store, picked up a Winchester paintball gun and a bunch of white box paint. Went out into the cow pasture and started playing paintball that way. We from there it was just woods ball. And got into the actual what I call competitive paintball out at Annandale about a year or two later.
Okay.
I actually think my first tournament may have played against you, Brad, if I remember correctly. It was one of the very last polar bears.
Very possible.
Maybe you remember. Yeah, still when Annandale had the wood chips down rather than grass.
Yep.
Oh,
so you want to go there, son? Sorry. We were joking about this before the program. We're about the program, so I saw an opening and had to go. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
So, after that, I got brought on to the Annandale Warbirds, and at that time too, they were running a series of paintball called the AYT, or the Annandale Youth Tournaments.
Yep.
I ended up being the head ref for those events. And that's where I actually met Frankie, was through reffing. Frankie was on a team that was constantly playing those events. I'll stop there. I'll let Frankie cut in. So that's kind of where we merged. But
did you start in the youth tournament, Frankie?
For me, actually, I started playing in 2004-ish. It was actually a church camp that my aunt and my late uncle actually used to kind of help run. My cousin was really huge into paintball, so they brought it to like the youth church camp. Ran like a summer program. It was like a 2-week program or a 1-week program. And that's how I kind of got introduced to paintball in 2014. Went back in 2004. Went back in 2005. After that, like I went to that year with like bought my own Tipman and all that stuff. And then into that late fall of 2005, SCP Jesse Anderson, if you remember him, guy with the white little eyebrow and everything.
Mm-hmm.
They were selling their guns to buy like the 2000, the DM6s or whatever that were just coming out at World Cup. So I bought his PM5 at that point, which then in turn brought me into tournament paintball. I actually worked at the old Field Splatcher Out, if you remember that guy over in Blaine, the true
G.
Yeah, G and the whole family over there. Those guys are great. Like brought into that and got me into like tournament series paintball, which brought me into playing with like Matt Flaggy, Mini, or Dan Valley, Mini, Johnny G. Just pouring myself another drink right now. And all those guys that were like, you guys that used to play with Brad, all the division guys that kind of remerged and reformed as a team after the fall of division. Went to World Cup in 2006, and then coming back from that, due to a internal explosion on the team, dismantled the team after World Cup, which at that point Splatcher Out closed, and I went to work for Aerosol Paintball when it was owned by Gary Ryerson, which then in turn met with Brandon Lanto, who is currently a Warbirds player.
Birdman.
Birdman, good old birdie. Brought me into the AYT series with our buddy like Kyle Soderman, who's now doing crazy ninja things. Now he's doing Ninja Warrior and all that stuff.
I pictured actual ninja things going on.
Kyle Soderman's doing like Ninja Warrior stuff. I think he's currently, not really currently because of the whole thing going on in the world right now, but working for Universal Studios and doing like the Rapture Park for the Jurassic World out in San Diego and stuff like that. But yeah, like for me, it was like me, Kyle Soderman, his older brother Troy, which was actually the same grade as me, along with a couple other buddies from high school and middle school, like Dylan, and then Eric Miller, aka Spike, from Inertia, when we all played on Inertia together. All kind of formed a little mini AYT team because of the 3-man. You had to be under 18. We were all under 18 to play it, which then in turn I met Dustin. So
Frankie, remind me, what year did you join the Warbirds? I'm gonna forgive me, Brad. My memory is like spotty, especially
you're talking to an old man, bro.
Yeah, I know.
You go on. It blends. Years blend. Years blend.
They really do.
What was it?
It was after the 2006 run, right?
I came in at the tail end of the 2006 run. I want to almost, or was it 2006 or 7? Was the PSP run that the Warbirds did?
That was 2006. So
okay, so I came in the fall of 2006. Then was when I went to the first practice because that was the reason why I wanted to join you guys.
Yeah.
Because of the run that you guys had in the PSP with what was it, like a 4th, a 3rd,
so
and then
it goes back to 2005. The very first PSP we played was at the end of 2005. It wasn't World Cup. It was I want to say it was LA, but I might be wrong on that.
LA Open. Yep. Yeah. LA Open.
Yeah.
So I remember we've talked about stories about that.
Sounds right.
Yeah. We took 5th, and that was our very first PSP. This was still back at the time for some of the young people that might be watching this. Hey, quiet. Sorry, I got a bulldog here.
It's okay.
Yeah. There was this was back in the time where it was still 15 balls a second and like
chainsaws.
Yeah. Give me a second. I'm gonna
not a problem.
Dog out. We ended up taking 5th of that event, and we decided to make a run at the PSP because of that the following year. So the following year we ended up playing pretty much every single PSP. I played every single event except for Chicago. The initial plan was that we were going to run the same line or close to the same line for every event except for Chicago. Knowing that it was expensive to play all the events, we wanted Chicago to be kind of a learning experience for some of the guys that couldn't, pay for a bunch of flights. Chicago's only an 8-hour drive from where we were at, so it's cheaper to do it that way. LA, so the first event this following season, we ended up taking 4th, and that was the first PSP that they did turf on. So everybody was slipping and sliding because it was just turf over asphalt. And then the following event was in North Carolina or South Carolina. It was the East Coast Open, and we ended up taking 3rd at that event. Our Chicago line didn't do so hot, and then we didn't really follow up with what the initial plan was. The line started being a mishmash. We sent a team up to Kansas City for the River City Open, and that's the only event in my life that I'm happy we didn't make it out of prelims. It was like 100 plus degrees when we started playing, like 80% humidity. It was awful.
Yeah.
And then World Cup, we just, for lack of a better term, we shit the bed at World Cup. Yeah. But it's the hardest event to play, and it is what it is. Frankie stepped away for a second. So
yeah, he needed a mix. I'm sorry, he didn't need a mixer. He needed a coffee.
Yeah,
coffee this morning. So no, that's perfectly fine.
No, but that entire time, that year and the year prior, we were primarily reffing PSPs. So leading through those 2 years, the AYTs were still going. I saw that Brandon Olson had posted that the AYTs need to come back. Completely agree, or something close to it. Something that fills in that need for youth players to get involved.
Yep.
But we were reffing all that, and I know that we brought on quite a few players from that played the AYTs. Frank was one of them. Kyle Soderman eventually came on.
Kevin Daly. Kevin Daly, I think too.
Kevin Donahue was one of them. Vince
Mace
came on. A lot of people that played that event came onto the team, and some of which still play. A lot of them don't. Life is what it is, and that was prior to, the whole economic collapse and everything going crazy in terms of paintball. So, Yeah,
So
Frankie,
both of you started to be teammates in what season? And how did you
2000.
become the brothers in which we know so well right now? Because you're continuing to bash people, so please.
yeah. So what 2000 was when we started practicing together, but I don't think we really started playing together until like 2008, 2009.
Yeah, I want to say 2008, 2009. Like looking through photos and stuff like that. We were always the 1-2 punch on the D side, but I think it was because of either. I think at that point you might have been. Were you D3 at that point?
No, I didn't go D3 ever until our 2016 deal.
The CPL run.
Yeah, otherwise before.
Okay. So I think it was a lot of it was me and Dustin would always play together at practice together.
Kids, that's a protein shake. Continue, John.
Yep.
Frank.
Yep. And this is just a very dark coffee.
Yes. Therapy. Morning therapy.
12 o'clock somewhere. With that being said, so me and Dustin always played together at practice on primarily the D side, which then translated to like us kind of being known as the Smash Bros because we were literally just smashed on the D side together. Both with our style is very fluid with each other. That's kind of one of the things that has always made us, I almost want to say, a threat to a lot of teams, is that our style is very fluid. Like we can, like Dustin can play the 1, I can play the 2, or I can play the 1, he can play the 2. Or vice versa of also playing like the 3. Like we can, like I can play center, which is what you're going to see a lot more, possibly with this coming season with like Air Assault now, is that I'm playing back center.
Hang on. Are you saying too much?
No.
Okay.
Not too much.
I'm not saying word.
Okay.
No, like it's one of those things. Is like it's been very known that now that I've been pulled back to like a back center, but that's more of based on my laning gun skills. And then we've usually been having so we got a very good deep roster this year with Air Assault, just to kind of throw it up ahead of time now. Like we got Ryan O'Leary, which is a great D-side player, very aggressive, very smart. Huh?
I'm a huge fan.
Oh yeah. Yeah, like Ryan O'Leary is very smart, methodical, has his good days, has his bad days, but is always usually a solid key anchor to a team. And then along with Jamie McGregor also being a center back guy with me, but he leans more towards the snake side. So it's always going to be one of those, depending on the field layout, depending on who we have for a roster, will determine where I play. But it's mostly been like, if you look at all of last season, statistically speaking, and look at pictures also, I'm usually in back center with Brent Kochman laning the shit out of people. So, but that's just based on my skill set of being a very solid laner and being able to, at points, just sit there and dump 10, 12 pods if I need to. But also being the flip side with like Dustin, is that Dustin can do the same thing back in like a corner, and I can be a lead attacker. He can just kind of puppet master me down the field. But so kick that back to 2007, 8-ish area. Like that's where me and Dustin were kind of known as threats for a lot of teams, is that our snake, like when we played for Annandale Paintball and played for Annandale Warbirds, I wouldn't want to say we were very, very rocky on the snake side. Is just I know that a lot of people had very hectic life schedules in life, which I've always been kind of an advocate for. You need to try to balance life and paintball together. And I'm never going to dog someone for being like, hey, I have to run my own business that day, because now also being a business owner, I understand that you have to skip practice. You have to skip a weekend tournament because you have something going on. Also being like my job is I'm a Costco bakery manager. So I know like a lot of the guys on Air Assault understand that like when I come in to like an 8 o'clock practice and I've already looked like I've been up for 4 hours, it's because I have been up for 4 hours because I was already at work for 4 hours baking. Like, it's one of those things that as an adult, you understand that you have to kind of dual life balance almost. Everyone thinks that there's this magical, mythical dream of playing, professional or semi-professional or divisional paintball where you can just do that, live in your parents' basement and call it good.
Some people do.
But
live in their parents' basement and
some people still do. It's weird. It's very weird.
I want to jump in on this point because I think.
But like, so with that being said, me and Dustin were able to.
Frankie's having a little bit of lag issue there. Dustin, you can.
I just want to jump in on this point because he's making a good point. And Brad, you and I have talked about this before via text. The whole idea of the mentality of what it takes to play paintball, like compete, I guess, play paintball, I think is lost on a lot of people. And it's one of the reasons why Frankie and I get along so well, because I think we have the same mentality. Running back to 2006 when we were doing that PSP run, like I was working a job that was doing, it was valet at a casino here in Minnesota. I would work until midnight, and I was living in the Twin Cities. That we were practicing out in Annandale, which was about an hour and a half, 2 hours from the Twin Cities. Being from Minnesota, you know what cabin traffic is like on the weekends during the summer.
Right.
So literally my mornings for practice days were, I'd get to bed after midnight. I'd wake up at 4:30 in the morning, pack up my stuff, drive all the way out to Annandale, practice until noon, and I wouldn't be back home until close to 3, and I'd have to work at 3:30. But I was doing that on a consistent basis. I think there's a lot of guys out there, at least I've seen a lot of guys, in the years that I played paintball, that said, hey, I want to play in the PSP or now the NXL or even the NPPL, but they weren't willing to put in the sacrifice to do it. I've missed family events, birthdays, that year in 2006 when I was at, am I the only one left? Where'd everybody go? I'm just going to keep talking. This is my stream now. In 2006, in LA, there was I got a phone call that last day that we were there. Both my grandfathers were in the hospital, and one of them ended up not coming out. I left a practice just to go and do to get to the hospital in time for his death. I wonder how many players would actually be like that. I'm getting a message. Brad says something weird. Cool. It's my show. I'm gonna take over. So yeah. Brad's saying he's being hacked. Frankie had to reset. All right, cool. Well, just give me 1 second if you guys are still watching this, or if anybody's still watching this. Okay, keep going. I can do that. So yeah, the point I'm trying to make is that I'm starting to see a lot more people really putting in the effort. It's not, if you want to succeed at this, and I mean, granted, I'm nowhere near from succeeding, but you've really got to be willing to make sacrifices to this. There was a no, Brad, I'm not going to do a stand-up routine. There was a clinic that Frankie and I went to with Rich Telford, and he put out the point that there's a lot of sacrifice to this, and my son's coming to say hi. Yeah, people love live issues. Hey, buddy. So I mean, even the pros understand that there's a bunch of sacrifice that's involved in this. It's not something that you can just go and do. Bring up an earlier a conversation that Brad had with oh God, who was it? Brad, it was the father son combo. Early, like I think it was your second interview. If you want to text me really quick, because I'm gonna butcher it. Yeah, Jamos, Yamos. I hope. Sorry, you're gonna probably people butcher my name too. Brad did it earlier. It's actually Thien. It's spelled T-H-E-N. But we all live with it. The sacrifices on the amount of driving that's involved, the financial sacrifice, going down to the combine is not a cheap thing to do. I don't know if a lot of people that are getting into the sport even now realize the financial burden and even just the time burden that it takes in order to really push yourself in this sport. I've been doing it now for 15 or 16 years, and last year was the second time I moved up to D3, and I've never been higher than that. That it's a brutal sport that you've got to, as far as me only getting that far, that's self-inflicted. There are things that I could have done a lot sooner, and I'd probably still be playing Division 4 paintball locally if it weren't for Frankie. There's a significant sacrifice that is required in order to push yourself to get to where you need to be or where you want to be. And it's not just paintball. That's everything in life. You have to be willing to sacrifice who and what you are for what you want to become. When you really break it down, that is not an easy thing to do. It's incredibly difficult. Frankie wants me to bring up our CPL run. All right. So Frankie and I have been playing on the Warbirds pretty consistently since 2007, 2008 is what we said. We had been chasing the dragon, for lack of a better term, trying to get back to our 2006 run of playing PSPs. We would randomly play a PSP or an MPPL before that imploded. And later, I think we played one NXL prior to our CPL run. Frankie and I sat down and had a conversation at the end of 2015 about what we could do. We had some really good talent on the team. Kyle Soderman, who we brought up, I'll just say this. Rich Telford had said that he was one of the most athletic, not PC term, but one of the most athletic retards that he's ever met. That kid still is just insane in terms of the athletic ability that he has. We had Brandon Lanto, who was starting to get to a point where he, I think he was starting to become disillusioned with paintball altogether. And then David Skirmer, who brought me into the sport, was getting, I think, to a point where he wasn't sure if he was going to be able to play much longer. I mean, life happens. Get married, have kids. It is what it is. So we sat down. We wanted to take advantage of what we could with the players that were available on the Warbirds. And we sat down with JT, who's the owner of Annandale Paintball. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, Matt Brown, Tom Johnson. We're also on those lines. Matt Brown still plays, and so does Tom. I just wanted to touch base, Frankie, on the guys that were kind of nearing what we thought were nearing the end. But we had laid out a full group of guys that we wanted to play on a particular line. And we sat down with JT, owner, operator of Annandale Paintball and the Annandale Warbirds, and talked about the possibility of making a run at the CPL. It was the last year of the CPL. The grand prize for it was a entry and paint to World Cup. We brought our ideal roster to JT, and he gave us the go ahead to start practicing with that group rather than doing kind of mishmash practice with all the players that were on the team at the time. I think our ideal roster had, if I remember correctly and did my math right, it was 7 or 8 players, and we had close to 20 on the team that were considered rostered on the team that could show up to practice and do practice and whatnot. We missed the first event just because of the way the timing worked out, Minnesota not being very friendly for practice in the winter, in the spring. Came out to the second event and we crushed it. I don't think I've ever played an event where I felt it went as smooth or as easy outside of 10-man this year in the 2 events that we played. Okay, cool. Brad, just tell me what you want to do. Brad's saying he's locked out. Tell me what you want to do. If we want to restart and start from the CPL, or whatever. Otherwise, I'll just keep on talking. It's up to you. So we ended up winning. It was winning or taking second in the first event, or the second event, I guess. But I can end it. I think I can by shining the link. All right. So let me finish the story, and then we'll, if Brad wants to restart the live deal, we'll restart it. So I'll finish the story. I'll let Brad sort that out. I'll give you guys an update on what we're going to do, and we'll go from there. So we ended up taking second or first at the first event. I don't remember exactly. Or the second event. Third event, it was more of the same. The last event, we got kind of into a situation where things got really crazy. We were in a situation where we could win the event or win the series prize if it was whiteout. A team out of Wisconsin didn't show up to the event, and then we had to place 2 or 3 places higher than a team called Chicago Tribe. So we knew we were kind of in a tough situation to win the series, but we were going to go out there anyway. To make matters worse, I had a wedding that weekend. And then Tom Johnson also had something else going on. So Frankie stuck around. So most of the guys went down there early. Frankie, Tom, and I left the Twin Cities at, I think it was 11 at night. Just imagine this for a second. You've got 3 dudes showing up to a parking lot in out by an airport. I was working for DHL at the time. One dressed up in a suit, the others dressed up like they're ready to go to a paintball event. Jumped in the car, drove all night, all the way out to Chicago. Got out to the field at about 5 a.m. Vents opened at 7. So we slept in the car for 2 hours at the field, ready to go. The rest of the teammates showed up, knocked down the window, woke us up. Again, me still in a suit, start getting ready to go play paintball. It's kind of a bit of a haze because I was super, super tired. I know Frankie was too, and Tom was, but we ended up I think winning or taking second at that event as well. Every event that we played at that CPL was either first or second. We had done the math wrong and thought that we were knocked out of the series prize. We went up to go and receive our event prize, and were asked how we wanted to deal with entry and the paint deal for World Cup. Like, what are you talking about? Turns out we ended up winning the series prize by, it was like 0.2, 0.3 points when it all came down to it. Okay, Brad's gonna try a restart. I was coming to the end of my story. Frankie will add in a lot more input into this, so I'm gonna leave it there. Okay, nope, never mind. I'm gonna keep going because Brad says so. So we ended up winning the series prize. I know Frankie was probably wanted to talk about this. It was a massive mess. Like, we're talking, no joke, small kids crying, dads yelling kind of deal. The Chicago Tribe team just completely lost it. I think we were so tired at that point that we didn't even really react to it all that well. Not in the sense of like ripping into these kids, but just not fully comprehending what happened. I mean, that whole series was nuts for us. The amount of time that we spent traveling, I think we spent just on drives there or drives back. We had one or two vehicles get totaled or at least do massive damage thanks to hitting a deer. I know that we got stopped and had the vehicle checked for drugs in Wisconsin on one occasion. Yeah, that was nerve-wracking. So it was all really just a lot going on for that event for us. We got back out at Annandale with the series prize in hand and needed to really discuss what we were going to do. The idea was that we were going to try to keep the line the same, to send down to World Cup to play 5-man. We had one guy that could not make it due to the period of time between the end of that event and World Cup. That was Kyle Soderman. We ended up taking 5th at that event. I still firmly believe that if we had Kyle, we probably could have won that event.
I am
Brad
in.
And Frankie are possibly back.
I am in.
Yes.
Oh God, I'm sorry, guys.
I'm so sorry.
That was crazy.
Okay, now
We were hacked. We were hacked.
Everybody, here's the real show.
Yeah.
No,
We were hacked.
Jeez.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry, Brad. I tried to keep it going as best as I could.
No, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. Improvise. You deserve that drink there, son.
I'm getting messages from you and Frankie. I'm getting text messages from my wife, and she's coming in with the kid. I'm like, I don't know what to do. Leave me alone.
It's got to be perfect. It's going to be perfect. We're better now. We're better now.
All right.
I apologize.
Okay, so to add on to the World Cup run that we had, that we got 5th place on, now that I can actually talk. Sadly, we got knocked out by, as Dustin mentioned, Rich Telford came out and did a lot of clinics for Annandale Paintball because of, one, with our great relationship with GI Sports at the time, and then JT Grundy being friends with Rich Telford. To bring in the sad part of that is that we got knocked out by the West Coast Sharks, which was coached by Rich Telford, which made it even like a harder thing for me and Dustin to be like, damn, we got beat by the guy that has been coming out and doing clinics for us nonstop.
Keep in mind,
Again,
it was close too.
It was.
If we would have gotten by them, I have no doubt in my mind. I think they ended up winning that event. I have
They
no doubt
did.
in my mind we probably would have won that event.
Yeah, which I know for us is looking back at a lot of I think we had like my wife at the time, or my wife Erica was at the sidelines like videotaping it too. A lot of our guys, we were doing like they were getting bounced off the break.
Yeah.
So that was like the biggest thing that we realized was that like West Coast Sharks wasn't the skinniest line in the world, as you could say. They weren't the most athletically fit people in the world.
Their back was massive.
Yeah, like it literally was like we would throw streams into a guy running up the center, and literally just everything would bounce. And we're like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Sorry for the non-PG version of that, but it's a webcast. Who cares? Yeah, we're all adults here. We're talking about paintball. I mean, if you haven't heard this yet, you should be playing paintball. But that was kind of things like a lot of us were at the end of it. We're like, you gotta be kidding me! Like the dude literally had like 6 refs on him. Everyone was checking him, and we're like, you gotta be kidding me. And I think it came down to, if I remember right, I want to say it got down to a very sketchy, like our last point, I think we were like 2-2 or some stupid shit like that. You know, pretty much the buzzer beater, you know, everyone where you want to.
It was 5-man. So we won that first point.
Oh, so it was a 1-1.
Yeah,
it was 1-1, wasn't it?
1-1 going into the last point. Yeah, Tom, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, so yeah, that's exactly what I was about to bring up, Tom, was that I remember this dude literally ran up the gut, and I think I ended up playing snake corner that time because we lost whoever was playing our snake corner at that point. I had to go behind Tom, and like I literally, like me and Tom just stood up over the top of our bunkers and roped this dude going up the gut. And we're like, there's no way this guy's alive. So we all like went back to our normal positions of like, okay, I'm going to watch Tom's wire. Tom's going to watch the gut. We'll be good with the cross shots. We're going to win this. Like we literally, I think at that point it might've been like a 43. So like a 4-on-3 is what we were thinking in our heads. The center guy was still alive because literally he was a tank rolling down the field, just getting roped. And we're
Big
all
Sherman.
Yeah. Pretty much. And we just kind of sit there and laughed about it. Like it's one of those things, like you laugh about it, but at the same time you're salty about it, much like Tom said, is that everything we did was right on paper. We lit him up, the refs ran in. Only problem was that we didn't just keep shooting him. But again, when you have 2-3 guns shooting at a dude going up the gut because you know a guy's gonna run the gut, 1 out of those 3 guns is gonna shoot him and hit him in a spot that's gonna break.
You would think.
But also being a bigger dude, a lot of stuff bounces.
Was this the event that I got shot in the face in the pits?
Yes, by Fury, by Chi-Town Fury.
So prelim day, it was like 2 games in. I ended up missing most of the prelim games up until the very last game. Chicago Fury is going out onto the field and they have a hot gun. Player sticks the gun underneath the netting to pass it off, pulls the trigger when he does it. Frankie's standing right next to me. Thank God I took it, because if it would have went over to my left more, you would have taken it in the eye, Frankie, because there's a height difference here.
Oh, yeah.
I took
a little bit of a height difference.
Straight right here. No mask. Dropped me to the ground. Huge fat lip. Blood everywhere.
Yeah.
Didn't play again until we played Chicago Fury that next point. And if there's any of those guys that are on this, I'll be honest with them and the refs that were out there, because the refs even came up to me prior to that point and asked me if I was going to be cool and not go crazy on it.
We lied a little bit. It's fine.
Pretty early and shot 4 dudes.
Big shout out to Gary Baum on that one, because Gary Baum was actually in our pits at that time. Who runs paintballphotography.com. He's actually a dentist, I guess. I did not know that about him until that event. That literally Dustin got shot in the face, and his first words were, "I am a dentist. Let me look at you." And I was like, whoa, like this is awesome. That even a media person that was like willing to not just like run away, that Gary Baum like stepped right in and was like, hey, let me check out your face. Let me check out your mouth. Make sure your teeth are all good. So big shout out to Gary Baum. Awesome photographer, one to begin with. One thing I gotta say is Gary Baum, stop using the flash in the woods. at the ICPL, he used flash on me, and I was like, "Whoa, what's going on here?"
Under attack. Flashbang, flashbang.
But I mean, again, big thanks to Gary Baum on that one, is that he literally just like dropped his equipment. I mean, I know that, working with Aaron Freyer, again, back to like MidWest Clothing, Aaron Freyer is a photographer. I know how much that stuff costs. And he literally just dropped it to the ground, ran over to Dustin and was like, "Hey, let me help you. I'm a doctor." Also, too, is it didn't help that one of the Cyclone Furies guys was like a first responder. So that guy was trying to help, and Dustin's like, "Get the fuck away from me."
Yeah.
But with that being said,
it takes a lot for me to drop the F-bomb. I think I can count on one hand how many times I've done that in my life. And that was one of those times, at least multiple times. I was pissed. That was not a good situation.
People could understand that feeling.
Yeah. So, but yeah, back to the point. We still firmly believe that probably should have won that event, but we didn't. And that year, I think, was the year that really solidified Frankie and I in terms of being in the same mindset and wanting the same thing out of the sport, outside of just, going out, being buddies and playing paintball. There's more to that. And that year really set the tone for, I think, where we are now. Would you agree, Frankie?
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the things too is to kind of lead back onto the Warbirds family in which we had there. Yeah. Like for myself, JT Grundy was my best man at my wedding. I still love him to this. Yeah, I'll say he was at Dustin's wedding also. We have much respect for JT. Like, he has literally given us every platform to, evolve and become the players that we are today because of the way in which he laid the groundwork. It's just I wouldn't want to say it was after like stage 2 or 3 of building a house, when you start getting into like the doing the drywall, doing electrician. That's kind of where the concept is that me and Dustin were kind of at, is that we were at that point and we were on different pages with JT.
Yep.
Dude, it wasn't JT. It was
well, I mean, yeah, you're right. The concept of the team in general, as much as you see with a lot of divisional teams, is that you're going to see do you want to be here to practice and play like some local events, or do you want to go on and play nationals and become D2, D3, D4, and so on and so forth, much like Brad, like you're doing with Blast Camp. I remember when me and Dustin were playing against lots of those dudes like Jackson Furr and all those guys.
Frey.
Frey.
Okay. He would just say something if I didn't correct it.
Correct him. Yep, sorry. Jackson Frey, which has also been a huge supporter of MidWest Clothing. So, but also too is like, I remember playing against those guys in 2016, was it, Dustin? The MPPL run.
No, like 2017.
Okay, so sorry. I remember
we jumped over the MPPL.
Yep. So sorry. 2017 with the MPPL. I remember playing against those guys doing D4 5-man.
Yeah.
And it's the concept in which we kind of look at the statistics of, both me and Dustin are 30 plus right now. Where we're at an age where it's like you either have to ride or you have to die. And we chose we want to ride.
Yep.
But in the same concept, I know a lot of those guys on, back and forth with now and present, or now and the past. A lot of us are on the fence on a lot of things. With me personally, it was, what was it? 2017, I guess, with aerosol. I'll bring this up right now. Was 2017?
No, are you talking about the 10-man fiasco?
Yeah, the 10-man. Yep, 10-man fiasco.
It was 2000. Let's see, Jeff is 2. It was 2018 because I had to deal with that and a newborn at the same time.
Okay, so I guess we're gonna kind of kick it into a soft spot for the whole Warbirds and myself, and possibly distancing myself from the team. In 2018, I guested with. For those that don't know, me and Brent Kochman have been good friends for multiple years. We we've always been very talkative to each other about what, I mean, as Brett will even probably tell you, is that playing local events like the Vintage Series, Brett would always tell his guys, gun up on Frankie. Frankie is going to be a killer down the D side. Take him out, the team will possibly fall, or you're going to cause chaos. Brent has even told me that at practice that he would always tell his guys to gun up on me. With that being said, Brent has offered multiple years to me to come over to Air Assault, and I always declined because, for me with JT, I always respected him. I always loved him. I loved him, his ex-wife, his current wife, everything in between. He's always been almost like a brother, an older brother that I never had, because I do have a younger brother, but I've never had an older brother to look up to. His business concept, his business mindset is amazing. His dad, Steve and Julie. I had to think there for a minute because I'm already on like drink 5 right now because of the technical difficulty.
Morning milkshake. Morning milkshake.
Yep, morning milkshake. Morning milkshake is what it is. Brad and Julie have always been a huge family concept to me. That those guys have always loved me from in and out, no matter what I've been going through in life. That they were always been there for us. In which I feel has made one of the best, almost the best family-ran business in Minnesota is A&L Paintball. Is the fact that they actually care. They actually care about their people. They care about their employees. They care about their team. Mm-hmm. With that being said, is going back to like JT being in my wedding, being in Dustin's wedding, is that they've always been a huge part of our families outside of paintball. And that's why I always, like, a lot of people ask me, like, what was my loyalty? Why was I so loyal for so long? Especially if you look at like the track record of Air Assault, is they've always won events. Why wouldn't someone want to go play for them? And for me, it was always loyalty. I know I even what's his name? Vince, who used to own Northside Sports, even brought up to me one time. Vince, whatever his name was at Northside. Always brought up like, why are you so loyal? Like, he'd see me at like these vintage events so that I'd still be wearing a Warbirds jersey. And it was like, because those dudes have always kept me at my peak performance and kept me on top of my toes and have always loved me. And it's always one of those crazy things that you look at of the family aspect of paintball. But with that being said, and I'm ignorant there, Jeff Boyles, one of the guys just popped up on the video on the live screen. Like Jeff Boyles, I still keep in contact with. I just saw him yesterday at work. Paintball has always been about family too. You have to have a family aspect of it. And that's what always kept me loyal to the point of being with A&L Paintball, was that I knew that no matter what, I could ask JT, I could ask Steve, I could ask Julie if I needed something, that they would say yes. Mm-hmm. But as Dustin kind of touched point on with the CPL, is that at that point we knew as a team we could do a little bit better. That we just needed the full, how do you want to call it? Like the determination and the commitment. Yeah, the commitment to the program. I mean, literally, like Steve and Julie, I remember one of our last few years is like as a team, we were very, very open about everything. We always gave a full definition of how much A&L Paintball was giving to us, and in turn, what was giving back to the company. Mm-hmm. And with that being said, I think that last year before me and Dustin left, it was almost like $10,000 or something like that was given to the team almost to cover practice events, to just the stupid shit we would do as a team that the field would cover. And I know for me personally, I didn't feel like the team in which gave that much amount, if not more, back. And again, with me being buddies with Brent on the outside of the things, not paintball wise, but also being just a friend of, because, Brent runs, Paintball Minnesota thing, the Air Assault series, the his own personal his own personal eBay selling page. Brent was kind of more of the business connoisseur side of me, which was Midwest Clothing. And that's where it's kind of like I knew where Brent was coming from when loyalty falls to a number, almost a financial number. And to me, like with that being said, I know that me and Dustin went to a local brewery up in Annandale to discuss with JT our departure to the team. And that was probably, even Dustin will say, it was probably one of our hardest conversations we've ever had to have with JT. That literally, it's like I would rather break up with someone than rather have that conversation with JT.
Again, just to stress this point, best man in Frankie's wedding. He was in my wedding. I grew up with the guy. Like, we went to the same school. He was 2 grades below me, but I've known him forever.
Most of your life.
Yeah. And he everything that I am in terms of a player in paintball, I can, he built the basis for it. I mean, we can all say we started in the woods, the majority of us started in the woods, especially the old guys. Let's be honest. That's where the majority of us started. But when it comes to translation from woods onto a speedball field, that you don't do that alone, or if you do, you need some guidance, and JT was that for me. And Frankie and I, because we played so long together, we've built a lot of things off of each other. But without JT, and this isn't even just Annandale Paintball or the Warbirds in general, without JT facilitating all of that, we wouldn't be the players we are today. And I don't think Midwest Clothing would exist today, because I don't think Frankie would have stuck around with paintball as long as he did.
No, because that was, again, like I just talked about earlier in the podcast, is that was the reason why I started Midwest Clothing, was to pay for us to go play like the CPLs, play the MPPLs. I know there's even one event that I literally went down and I drove to the MPPLs, drove 3 of the guys, 4 of the guys, whatever, down to the event, and I coached the event. I didn't even play it. But the way in which I was able to financially support that, because, as a player, you have to have a check and balance of why you can afford it, what you're doing type thing, For me, it was, I went down as a coach, but Midwest Clothing was paying for it because we also sponsored the team at the same point. And that was my rationalization in my mind of I will drive down 7 hours to go play, because 1, I love all the dudes that are playing with us. And 2, the worst case, I'm going to write this off as a check, a little payoff thing for the company if we don't win. But the best part is I want to say, I'm literally trying to search through my phone right now and looking at some of the pictures and shit like that, bring me down memory lane. I want to say we got second place or first place at that event that I coached. And to me, was that event number 3, I want to say, for the MPPL?
For which event? The MPPL?
The MPPL. I want to say it was whatever.
It would have been number 2 or 3, because the first one we thought we could have X number of D3 players, because after that 2016 CPL run, there were 4 of us that went D3, or 3 of us, and we were going to bring down 2 lines. We had to screw everything up. So it would have been either number 2 or number 3. I don't remember that.
I want to say it was number 3 then. I think it was number 3, because I remember looking at pictures. It was Jeff Boyles, Jason, Kyle. We had to kind of flip-flop some people. I think you weren't there. But it was one of those things is to me, it was that at that point in the event, I knew that we had the right roster to make the right decisions. And the thing is too, is much like Dustin said, JT, from the beginning, when we brought a roster to him, he was very supportive of us. And that, I want to say, almost brought us to the point where we thought we could achieve more. is that because we had the roster we wanted with the Grundy's support and Annandale Paintball support, we were able to achieve greatness. But I mean, much like any other team out in any other sport, either be financial commitment. I mean, even the same thing we have with Air Assault right now is that we have the financial commitment or the time commitment. You have to always balance that sword of what can you achieve really, and that's bring it back to 2018 Atlantic City Open when I guessed with Air Assault. It was for, I want to say, like, my justification for playing that event was that Air Assault wasn't playing, or Andale wasn't playing the event. We had none of our players down there to support the event. And that for me, it was damn near almost a free ride. Like, I mean, to be honest with you, like, Brent also does an amazing job financing players if need be. But for me, it was hey, Frankie, do you want to play this? Yep. Okay, cool. Hey, just pay for our hotel room on the way out and pay for your flight down there. Like that, I think that's literally all I paid for that event. And for me, I was like, being what was it, maybe at like fucking 22 years old at the time or whatever, 23 at the time, or no, like 25-ish, somewhere around the mid-20s, being given almost damn near a free ride to go play paintball besides the flight and pay for one night of a hotel room. Like, for me, financially, I was looking at that going, that was the cheapest paintball I've ever damn near played, and especially out of the state. And
I remember you calling me and asking me if it would be a smart thing to do. And I remember telling you, dude, you do you, man. You do whatever's best for you. If I had that opportunity, I think I would take it.
Yeah. I mean, that thing is like
cost to me.
Yeah.
So,
and that thing is like me and Dustin have always been one of those guys that will always talk about everything with each other. And with that being said, it's like I was down there with Brent. We won third, I think it was third place or something like that. Damn it, Mike here. You had to be drunk in the finals and turn 10, man. And screw it up. But Mike here, I still love you, brother. But it's one of those things it was one of the ones that, like, I looked at it as I tried to do back myself out of it as a team owner side of it and look from the outside in. For me, I tried to justify it as I was playing technically what would be deemed as a D4 event. It wouldn't affect my roster. It wouldn't affect me on how I would affect the team later on in life. And like, for me, it was kind of the experience of just going out there. Also, too, is like a little unknown fact of a lot of that stuff is at the time, MidWest Clothing was working with Infamous at the time. I flew down with literally like 300 or 200 headbands or something like that and handed them off to Travis Lemansky from Infamous. That pretty much paid for my whole event. I literally hand delivered, which also I would want to say that it kind of affected my personal decision making on that, but I was able to hand off MidWest Clothing products directly to a distributor, to a customer, whatever you might want to call it. Is that going to Philly, I was able to actually interact personally with a customer. To me, that was a huge thing to me as a business owner, that like I always feel like the best contact with any like business aspect is that if you can talk to them in person and hand off a product, show them a product, and talk to them about a product, it would help your long-term goals as a company. So for me, that was kind of a double-edged sword on that, was that it also helped me as a company, as a player, and as a person to expand my business. So granted, it be said, but
Well, yeah, I mean, there's so many layers, and the thing is that I've had the kind of privilege to have a sideline seat and see both of you guys evolve and develop as players and see your journey, which is exciting at some times, frustrating at other times. I'm sure Dustin can agree with me on that one. Where the number one thing is that you're in playing and that you have a direction that you want to go. Everybody wants to go and pull in the same direction, and that is kind of invaluable to do. Why don't we talk about specifically the future of what you guys are doing now with Air Assault, and if anyone out there from Air Assault is listening, you can help direct this as well. So
You're Dustin.
I don't know how much we can dig in.
Just like events that you're planning on playing, who the current roster is, where they came from, how long they've been there, because I can definitely talk about specific players and you guys can do it, dudes who've caught my eye, like Elia. He's grown up.
Let's do this, Brad. Let's do this. Let's talk about what the plan is for this year, because I think we can talk about that.
Yep.
I don't know if we can really talk about past that.
That's fine.
Just based on one, where we are, and number two, how much or what Brent wants to push.
Absolutely.
So I gotta play that, down the middle. So right now the plan is we played was passion for personal brand shows. Thank you. The right now, so far we've played the ICPL in Florida. Frankie was a part of that. I was not. I had personal things going on that I couldn't do. We're planning on playing the last one in Chicago. I'll be there for that one as well as Frankie. The Iron City Classic is on the table as well. We're also planning on playing the D3 X Ball at the MPPL. Frankie and I are both on that line, and I believe we're putting in a D4 line into that as well. Don't quote me on that. I'm not entirely certain because I don't play on that line.
That'd be a D5 line for those guys.
Oh, D5. Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I just wanted.
I don't.
Yep. I just wanted to make a record, or at least a point of motion, recognizing Mojo just popped in with the now recording. So I'm wondering if Mojo was hacking into my computer or something. But yes, I know that we're being watched, Mojo, and I will behave, and the guys will behave for sure. So thank you, bro. I appreciate that. Now, continue.
Outside of that, I believe Chicago NXL and World Cup NXL are on the table. As a unit, we're not going all in on the NXLs just because of a cost standpoint and a return standpoint.
Are you playing the MPPLs in Illinois?
Yes.
Yeah, the Midwest Paintball Players League.
Yep.
Yep. Let me. Do you want me to chime on this for a little bit, Dustin?
Absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead.
So with that being said, as a team, we sat down technically at the middle of last year on the NXL versus the MPPL cost versus return. Yeah. One, Mike McKinley runs an amazing facility, an amazing event at a third of the price of an NXL. Jim Emmerich, who is now the current owner of Air Assault and technically considered what's deemed as paintballminnesota.com, is a huge supporter of the team, financially backs the team in a lot of aspects of it, both facility-wise and cost-wise. With breaking down with Brent is like, this is where me and Brent, I feel like, get along very well, is we understand the cost to risk ratio on everything. With that being said, like on an aspect of it is that the MPPL, you got to think of it, or the MPPL, like the entry is like $200, $300, whatever it might be, at a risk of winning, $1,000+ dollars. NXL, you got to think is, $500, $600, $700. I don't even know what the cost is nowadays on MP or the NXL, but also
I was going to look it up prior to this whole deal and figure out what it was, because the return on the investment, it isn't there. It just isn't.
Once, especially that's why as an aspect of the team and like Air Assault in general, or even any Midwest player-based team, play the MPPL. Like, shameless plug right now to the MPPL and Mike McKinley's like event, but if you aren't playing it, I'm gonna say you're an idiot. Like, to literally drive. If you're driving only 6 hours, if you're really driving like 6 hours and paying like a $300 entry fee to an event, and you can win $1,000+ and a free entry to, technically Mike McKinley is like, I think it's been gracious enough. Like, this season might be a little different because he had to cancel event number 1 because of the whole coronavirus thing. He's always been you can have an entry to Chicago or World Cup. Like, he will pay your entry, which is at least $1,200 plus ish, give or take.
And paint.
Yeah, and plus like $20, 20 cases of paint or something like that. Like, if you aren't playing that, you're almost stupid not to do it. Because that you are able to, one, like, especially for Minnesota paintball players, like if you want to go to Minnesota, Wisconsin, Chicago, Illinois, Michigan, whatever it might be, the 5-state area, if you want to call it the standardized Midwest, the 5-6 state area. If you aren't willing to drive 6 hours or so to go play some paintball to damn near win World Cup or Chicago entry, like, it is almost a dumb thing to do. His facility is great, especially for out there. He's got 2 fields now this year. Also with like air in the pits, scoreboards. He's got, I want to say now, the thing is, like, they're talking about like 9 refs on a field.
Is Nick Sloviak still helping with the reffing on that?
No, sadly, Nick is not. I don't know personally, but because of the fact that I've kind of talked to Nick every once in a while, and I follow him on Instagram, Facebook, and all that stuff. I know him and his wife actually moved down to, I want to say it's Fort Lauderdale, Florida, wherever the GI like kind of headquarters is now down in Florida. They moved down there. I know Nick was originally an Illinois resident, which hence why 2 last year, I think, was their field 1, whatever, or field 1.
It was after the first event that he came in. So
yeah, I want to say, I mean, nothing is Nick. Honestly, Nick too has also been a huge supporter of both Midwest Clothing and just everything I've been doing in general in like the personal life. I know Nick because I'm guessing, I guess that because of him being now based in Florida, being like him and his wife moved down there and his kids, and it's you got to be a family first. If anything, it's just you have to run your real life first. You can't just live the dream of professional paintball. And with him working with GI Sports, he needs to be closer to the home office and all that stuff that they have. So I think that's why he probably didn't sign on for year 2. I know we have Otter is our head ref, which Otter I've known for years. I want to say I think he helped with the CPLs also. I remember seeing him. I don't remember if he was like an actual head ref or if he was just like an affiliate ref. But
I'll be honest, all that is a little bit vague, and I just remember bits and pieces of the CPLs. Just specifically that last event, and I think the first event when it was just a mud fest. But
that was a fun event. But I know like Otter and all those guys that were originally, I think, came out of the last camp, which is kind of a funny thing, Brett, with you being here with us right. In this, is that like Johnny Nani was all a ref at like the last camp and stuff like that. That we had a lot of Midwest refs kind of helping out, which I think kind of helps solidify a local regional event on that, is you have refs that actually understand the players. If you kind of want to do like national scene style right now, is that you get into, I know like with Dustin and myself, our first year playing D3, I want to say we were playing, was it World Cup? We were playing D3? Were you there at that event, Dustin?
Oh, I think it was Chicago and World Cup. I remember playing Chicago.
But yeah, it was World Cup because I was shooting a full die like setup because at that point Dan Norcross, which now plays for the Ironman, was one of the die reps. Yeah, good old Danny Norcross, little Dan. At that point, he was working with Die as like a lead sales rep. Midwest Clothing was trying to really get into the kind of like helping out other companies and doing our own little like reviews on stuff. Dan sent me like a Die M3 and i5, like the die pack. He sent like the full get up of a person to like wear like die products. I remember at that event, like our field that we were on, like I want to say a lot of those were the like MXL refs. Like we didn't understand them. We didn't really know them. They didn't know us.
Yeah. I vaguely remember this. Yeah.
And it's kind of things like that's why I like about almost like the regional series is that you get to know the refs. The refs get to know you. They get to know what you do as a player. And it kind of translates to like anything in paintball is like you play locally at, you know, like say aerosol. You say like if me and Dustin are reffing you, we know what we'll kind of get away with. You know that you know, hey, we'll have that little bit of a soft spot for you. That if hey, we're not going to pull a major on you, we're not going to pull a minor on you. That we're going to be like, hey, dude, just get out, please, just get out of the field. And with that being said, is that you kind of get comfortable with the reps and you get to understand them. They understand you. They know who you are. They know what you can do, what you can't do. And that's why I feel like there's a little bit of a downfall in the NXL. Not to bash on anything Tom Cole's doing. Tom Cole's, I feel, is running a great event. It's just the payout isn't the best per se. But, you know, as anything, you have a business. You have to run overhead. You have to run a profit margin. But with that being said,
I was thinking about this earlier today before we got on this. Brad, I know you and I have, again, talks about this a little bit in text. I think one of the major problems with paintball today is the guys that are saying, or the organizations or whatever that are saying they want to grow the sport, really mean they want to grow their pocketbook and then grow the sport. I think if you want to take this mainstream and really push the sport of paintball, like the actual sport of paintball, is going to require somebody to actually take a loss, and nobody wants to do it. I don't blame them, but it is what it is. And I think there are teams out there and players that are out there that are starting to wise up, that are starting to say, like Frankie and I are, and the Aerosol family are a good example of it. And I say Frankie and I because I think the CPL that 2016 year was when we really figured it out, where it was we need to start doing things that make sense financially, not just we want to do things because we can do it.
On that, Dustin, though, I think that was like the first year that both me and you were able to actually almost play for free. It's because we financially looked at it of the events that we win, we could pay for the cost of the next event.
There was that, but there was also even if we wouldn't have won those events, Frankie, the way we had that whole deal set up, it's looking back on it, the rate of return on it would have made more sense.
Yeah. It's less of a financial blow to the personal player at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of players are starting to wise up to that, or teams are starting to wise up to that. And nothing against the NXL, but I think if we want to really take the sport to the next level, somebody's got to make a change.
Yeah. Now, granted, though,
you've been around for a while. I mean, what's your take on it? I honestly want to know.
I have no comment.
I figured as much because we got this semi-pro. Look, the only reason I bring it up, and I'm going to get kind of nerdy on this one, and forgive me for this, but because I've done a shit ton of research on just where paintball is as a sport, I think back in the PSP days and the NXL days, you heard it a lot more. How can we get paintball to be like NFL level? You don't hear it as much anymore, because I think the thought is gone.
It's still there. It's still there, but it's old, it's salty, and it's angry because the way or the path that was promised via Dick Clark and Penny Marshall, and we'll be touching on this later on other podcasts. That was one big thing that was monumental in paintball, in trying to get paintball onto TV. But continue.
Yeah. But I think part of the issue is, and I think where we're having the disconnect is people are looking at the wrong sport in terms of what paintball or where paintball was and where paintball has gone. You're looking at football. Yeah, there were regional leagues that formed into the NFL because of the NFC and the AFC. But in reality, what we really are, and I don't mean to bash paintball in any way, shape, or form. And if you actually,
I was just going to bring that up, Brad, that comment that T2 posted.
Continue, Justin. We can all read
Justin.
while you're talking.
Yeah. I think
Maybe not
what
Frankie.
we really are in terms of how leagues are and where we're at as a sport is more towards professional wrestling. And I'm not saying that we're professional wrestling and that it's fake. What I'm saying is in the early 80s, it was all like regional shows that were going on. And then in the 90s, you had two major powerhouses, the WCW and the NFL, the WWF. We had the PSP and the NPPL. And prior to that, there's a bunch of regional leagues, and now it's just the NXL. Right now in professional wrestling, it's just WWE. We're professional wrestling in terms of what there is in order to play. It's ridiculous. Again, I don't mean to correlate us in terms of what those two things are: professional wrestling and paintball.
I get the analogy. It's a good analogy. Yeah. It is.
Yeah, and I mean, you've been around long enough to know, or at least I think you've been around long enough to know the regional stuff.
We're live and I'm ready.
Yeah. But you've been around long enough to know before the PSP and the NXL, or the PSP and the NPPL. I've only been around long enough to really know the PSP and PPL days and transitioning to that. And I think if we sit down and really think about where we are as a sport as a whole, and where we could go and what we need to do in order to go there, I think there's a lot of sacrifices that need to be made, not just on a player level, but on a team level and on an emotional level. Like the guys that are running these events, especially the high level ones, and why I'm looking at the MPPL, like, great thing that Mike's doing there, because you're bringing in players, you're actually making it worth it to bring teams and players in. But when you look at the dollars and cents on it, the only reason to play the MPPL or the NXL is because it's the NXL.
It is. Now I will say a few things about that. I won't go
at least at a divisional level. I'll put it there.
Nope. I understand completely. You're not speaking for everyone. You're not. Again, I understand.
My knowledge is in that D4 to D3 range, because that's what I play. I want to get higher, but again,
the best show and the best production right now is from a worldwide level is the NXL package. Tommy Cole and the guys who've put it together. There's a lot. It's great. with anything, there's going to be issues, problems, and what have you. I also firmly believe, just like what you alluded to in an analogy about the wrestling thing, I think that there should be choices. I was having this conversation yesterday, but it was more on the woods ball side of things, where some of the classic dudes just want to play woods ball. They don't want hyper ball. They don't want mounds fields. They don't want classic, they just want woods ball. And there's going to be a discussion actually after I get off with you guys here in a couple hours with some of those people that feel so strongly about that. But I said that I think the more tournaments, the better, because if somebody's willing to operate at close to a loss to promote a format, a tournament, a style, if they put on a good event, it's going to grow. It's going to grow. If they don't put on a good event, it's not going to grow. That's, I think, something that we can all agree with. It's a quality of experience. It's a value. If you pay $5,000 and you feel like you got jobbed, you're not going to be happy. But in this industry and in this game, if you pay $20 and you feel like you didn't get a good enough return on investment, you're going to be just about as salty. And that's something that I don't necessarily agree with, but it's something that we as an industry have to say, hey, are these things in control, out of control, out of people's control?
The one thing that is outside of that realm, though, Brad, is even with the NXL, they could do whatever they wanted in terms of charging players and what you're actually going to win as a prize package. As long as they have the professionals that are playing there in a professional division, you will have players that come in there. It doesn't matter the cost.
Right. They want to be around the pros.
That's exactly it.
That's the experience. Then I agree wholeheartedly. That's part of the experience that you're paying for, is to be able to be around the pros, talk to the pros, see the pros. Hey, that dude just walked past me. Hey, so-and-so, I'm not a creeper. Stay away from me. I completely get it.
In that sense too, if you truly want to grow the sport and you want to bring it mainstream, you cannot have a league. What does this say?
No, you keep going. You keep going. We're reading it.
I don't think you can truly have a league that has professional players that are playing at the same time as divisional players. And as much as I love professional players and like hanging around them, one of my earliest memories in 2006, again at Los Angeles, was sitting on a curbside waiting for Gary from Aerosol to come pick me and JT up to bring us back to the hotel, and Chris Lasoya walking by and handing me a beer because it was my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Not anymore. But
no, I know.
Yeah.
That's a good happy birthday. Lasoya handed me a beer.
And as a 22-year-old, just starting to really dive into this, fantastic. Yep. But on the same end, you don't look at professional sports right now. Like if you go watch a baseball game or a football game, you're not saying, where are, use baseball, for example. How's the AAA or the AA or the single A team doing today? Nobody cares unless you're in those markets on the smaller side, or you're in the actual professional market and you're super crazy and are paying attention to those teams. And that's not even a good analogy, because not every single pro team has a farm system in paintball.
Yeah. Yes, you're right.
And this, I'm sorry, I'm probably blacklisting myself from any future movement. So Aerosol's probably my last team that I'll ever play for. But
ladies and gentlemen, he had too much cough medicine this morning.
Yeah.
There's a violent interaction between his meds. Continue.
I'm just going to throw this out there. And I know I'm probably blacklisting myself and killing myself in terms of paintball, but the draft, or not the draft, the combine, although it puts out in theory, a great product, it is not really a combine. It is another means for the NXL to make money. If they were consistently pulling players from the combine onto those pro teams, and even if the pro teams had farm teams that they could pull players into and put them into those farm teams, it would be a different story. But most pro teams do.
Now, with that being said, as I understand the same concept. I know we had a personal player on Air Assault.
Please correct me.
I understand where you're coming from, as in Dustin. I 100% I want to say 100% agree, but I agree with the concept of it. Because I know that we personally had two players on Air Assault, I think it was, kind of throw the ball out there of what do they think they need, it doesn't, or what it does and doesn't do. Much like T2 is commenting on right now, is that, as an outside standpoint, is much like you kind of look at the WWE, WWC, or WCW concept of it back in the day. Now, granted, nothing against you right now, T2, and I know you're watching right now, brother. Again, I love you so much. Do they profit off of it as a business aspect? Maybe yes, maybe no. As always with a business, you have to have a cost to risk reward. I know that both T2, Lori, and I'm spaced on the other guy, T2. If you want to text me or whatever, let me know who the other guy was. I know there's three of you guys that kind of run this whole thing. That as an aspect, yes. Do they kind of make money off of it? Yes, but also you got to think of the cost risk reward of it. Pay Nick Sloviak, I'm sure it's not just, hey, let me buy your flight for you to come out here for the weekend to take time away from your family. Marcelo Margot, Greg Sewers, Yash Rao, or whoever it might be, Ryan Greenspan, whoever it might be that comes out to fly. I'm sure it's not just Anthony. That's okay. I knew it was someone that was named same as you, Anthony. So sorry, T2 there, buddy. But I'm sure it's not the same. It's not the, hey, let me just buy your flight. As much as with anyone in any aspect of life, you have to pay for their time. Much as a standard business model, I think the standard business model in general for anything is your cost to your time should be about 1.5% of your time. So for me, that's where I kind of spin the Midwest clothing side. I'm the opposite of it. Literally, my time to sew something or my time to design something is nowhere even near 1.5 of my normal pay rate. But my normal pay rate is kind of skewed because of Costco, because of how well they pay me. But you have to kind of balance out the time and cost rewards. But much like you said, Dustin, is that you have the divisional teams that kind of feed up people. So I know one of the biggest pickups, come ups lately in the last year was I want to say it's Austin Bushley. I want to say I think his name was from the Diesel AC League version brand, whatever you want to call it. Coming up to the AC Diesel program under Greg Pauly. Same concept as you can kind of say is that you have the Wisconsin Infamous. Wisconsin Infamous, you got trying to think of what his name is right now. I'm completely spacing. But Wisconsin Infamous, a lot of those guys play with us. There you go. Austin Beatley. Sorry, just if I'm pushing this. Yeah. But it's a great concept of how someone can come up in the program. Is that you have a feeder system in place. Much like Wisconsin Infamous, is that you have a lot of the guys that me and Dustin played against for the last couple of years. Is you have Hank Stump, you have I'm trying to think of spacing right now. Mike Kaufman is kicking in. But I mean, a lot of those dudes have literally came over to air assault during the winter. We've had like some hardcore scrimmages where we literally grinded out 40 points nonstop. And those are now all guys within a program of a professional division team that can now move up the ranks and kind of work within their own system. So, I mean, does the kind of go back on Dustin's like comment with does the pro or the paintball combine make money for the NXL? As T2 commented, no, it does not, because the paintball combine and NXL are separate. And actually, I want to say it's the MVPS. T2, maybe you can comment on this real quick if you got time still, brother.
Maximum Velocity Paintball Series.
Yeah, I think that they partnership with those guys because they're I want to say they call it the Winter Classic. Is falls on usually the same weekend. But I mean, in a concept, yes, you have the NXL pro players hopping in on this pro or the combine, which then in turns kicks over to the MVPS, which in turns I'm sure maybe has some series prize to the NXL to win a series entry or something like that. But that there's a lot of mini programs throughout the country. I mean, even if you think of it, kick back to, hey Brad, if you want to kick T2 in, and I am completely for this.
I sent him a link like 20 minutes ago, bro. He just
T2 hop in, brother.
Yep.
Like
T2 hop in.
Don't get me wrong. I know I'm ignorant in some of this. I just look at it from this standpoint, Frankie, is specifically when it comes to the combine, I look at it in only one way. How many players have been picked up by pro teams off the combine?
Which is fair statement on any aspect of anything. I
That
mean,
affects me, but
yeah.
no,
I'm just saying.
T2's gonna hop in now.
When you think combine, you're using that as you're calling it that for a reason. When you think combine outside of paintball, you think the football combine. You think guys that are going to be playing professional football in the next year, 2, 3, whatever. They're going to be drafted by a professional team.
Yep.
That's not happening in a paintball combine.
I think what they're doing is they're getting a good look at the skill that's up and coming and get a perspective that way. Because coming from a coach's perspective now, I can see great value in that because that's now I've never been to the combine. Some of the guys that I talked to before who've had combine experience have had great combine experience. I'm sure you can find people who are like, nah, that's not really what I want, because it's more of a system thing. You know, if there's 4 pro teams out there, they're looking at it from a perspective which I completely understand. Are you going to fit my system? Or can this person communicate and think how I want them to? Because I know that Jackson, who just went to the combine and was, you know, the under 19 winner. I know that from that situation, and even from last year when he was close, a lot of the pro captains and coaches took notice and helped him. So I'm not disagreeing with you, because I'm sure that there's a lot of what you say where, again, it's one of those things. If I connect with a guy, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about when I say this. I can have a team of dudes in front of me where I only talk to 2 dudes on the team because I personally connect with those guys. Now, it doesn't mean that I disrespect or I don't like or I don't deal with the other dudes. It's just for some reason I connect with those guys and I feel like there's a symbiotic give and take relationship. I think the combine opens those doors, but some people's perception might be more along the lines of what you're saying. And if there isn't a payoff on it, you don't see that happening.
Right. And again, I'm not I'm not saying that it's not good for some players. Yes. I'm just saying as a whole, for what an average player would expect. And again, I'm taking this from a player that's played D4 and D3 my entire paintball career. So over a decade. What I see and what I'd expect with the name Combine is not what we're getting out of it. That's all. And I'm not saying there's not a place for it. I don't. This comes back to a personal struggle of mine from a paintball standpoint. I'd still be playing for the Warbirds if it wasn't for Frankie, because I don't go searching for other teams to play for. My philosophy has always been, if I'm good enough to go play for another team and another team wants me, or a program wants me, or I'm good enough to go and do something more, then I will have somebody come and talk to me. Not I got to go out and hunt. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So from the standpoint of putting yourself out there or take a look at you, the Combine's great. But I don't understand a good path forward for guys outside of a lucky shot or having ties to the industry, making it in paintball.
T2, welcome, brother.
Hey guys, what's going on? Let me
correct me, please. Enlighten me.
Hold on.
I'm a moron.
I'm trying to get. No, you're not a moron. Number one, hey guys, how you doing? And Brad, thanks for having me on here. So I got a lot going on right now.
So T2, just so you know, I did a wardrobe change.
looking sharp. So
what, T2, I did a wardrobe change right now, just so you don't hate me.
No, reps to Dante's barbershop, by the way. So I didn't really want to hijack your thing. You guys get going on here. It's I would love to actually come on for a full blown thing. I've watched a bunch of your stuff, Brad. It's actually helped really pass the time here during this the quarantine. So so really related to the Combine right now though. So I don't know necessarily if the Combine is really. I think the perception is that you're going to get on a pro team, and I don't think that that's the way that it's really marketed. It's so I don't really do a whole lot in terms of logistics for the Combine. Boston Paintball as a whole, we have a couple of things under the umbrella of our company. So you have obviously the Twister brand committed, where we do our products through there. You also have the NEPL, which is our league, BKI, which you guys obviously know what BKI is, the player training program. And then the Combine and Team USA, which have kind of become this intertwined type thing, right? So the Combine essentially gives you the opportunity to really have a super clinic with the best pros on earth, right? You've got who knows how many we had the last one, right? It was like 10 or 15 different pros. But John's right in a certain respect where it is, from a certain standpoint, kind of a business, right? We don't necessarily make money off of it, but we need to make enough that we're not losing our shirt to run it. And the logistics of taking everybody from Boston, not just our staff, but you're getting all your pros down there. You're getting Jeff Stein from the Hurricanes, New England Hurricanes, the current semi-pro team. He runs all the scoring aspect of it and statistics. I kind of run a back end version in Boston as well. We have to get all of them down there. We have to ship all of our supplies down there, and we have to rent a house, put all the pros up, feed the pros, pay the pros to be there. So all of that plus jersey design for all the players and participants, getting all the jerseys, paying up front for everything. So essentially,
life.
Yeah. So our break even essentially is once we have to say there's 100 players, right? We need 100 players to sign up. Well, anything short of 100, we're not making any money to offset our costs. So
operating costs.
Exactly, yeah. Operating costs. So the MVPS is great because they've got that I don't remember Austin Tingle Park. I think that's where they host it. So the MVPS just coordinated with us and decided, you know what, we're going to do our event at this place, and then we kind of split the cost a little bit on the venue, so we could host our stuff on Thursday, Friday, and then on Saturday their events start. So we kind of split the cost to have it. And then the best thing is we can kind of take all the players, put them together, and put teams into the event, and they can kind of organically kind of grow together. So as a tail end to that, we also obviously have been kind of putting together the Team USA program on top of it. So there's a lot of logistics to it. And there are some players that have went on to play on very high level teams. I know, I don't really put people on blast out there, but I can tell you the Team USA players from the past year were offered pro spots and decided not to take the pro spots and stay with the teams they were currently with, because I think they feel like they want rather stay with those guys and get there. So a lot of players that did come through the combine realistically could have gone on pro teams. They chose not to go on pro teams. They'd rather get there with their friends and their teammates and work on what they've built over the years. So I think that's
like T2. Can I chime in on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead. Sorry.
So is much like with me and Dustin, is that our loyalty is I mean, even Brad can even mention it, is in the past he's came up to me and been like, where's your loyalty at? Like, why aren't you taking these options? Is that it's much like me and Dustin, is that we wrote it out for so long with another team was based on our loyalty, is that we wanted to bring it and come up with our friends to the point where we know that the line finally broke, that we can't make that move with our friends.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of, I'm sure that like Jackson Frey from Blast was probably one of those kids. That guy's an amazing player.
I
you can neither confirm nor deny, but T2, we know how it always is, dude. But I mean, there's always those guys that we see on these top contending teams that always have like an option to go somewhere else. Yeah. It's a matter of, do they take it or do they want to stay loyal?
I mean, let's face it, right? I mean, to be a pro, like we say pro player, right? Where it's paintball.
Yep.
This isn't paintball in 2008, right? So they're not coming to you with a giant check and going, here's your giant, you want a golf tournament check for, you're paying into this much to play pro, right?
Wait, I can't be like Oliver Lang? What?
Yeah, no. I mean, it's some of these pro sponsorships are, congratulations, you're pro. Get to all these practices. Here's 100 guns you have to sell to offset your costs that are worthless. Like that's kind of, that's some of the things. So for some of these guys, I think to go through the paces and earn it, it speaks more volumes to them as a player rather than to be handed the opportunity, So I think that the combine's there to not just get people onto teams. Because, I mean, the definition of a combine is really you're displaying your talents so you can get picked up, right? I mean, that's kind of what an NFL combine is. Yep. This is and maybe that's the beginnings of this when it all kind of started. Again, we've been doing the combine for 15 years in Boston. I mean, this is just everything we learned from that we brought to a national level. And using BKI's assets now, it's easier to get pro players in to help us because some of them are already part of our program. But I think that a big thing is, though, that now you're getting a super clinic, and a lot of these guys are bringing these things back to their teams, going home with the skills that they learned and the drills that they've learned and making their teams elsewhere better. So I think that, you send some of your talent down there, guys that can warrant it. I mean, it's an expensive trip. It's like $1,200 or something to go down, just to enter and get the paint, go through the whole thing. But
especially from the Midwest players too.
Of course, if you send some of your better players down and they have the opportunity to get on a USA team or something, like for your shop or your field or your team, to say you got a Team USA guy in your stable, that's a pretty big thing. I know Blast Camp, they had jerseys they had in the shop and a bunch of stuff too, with their players. So again, I think it's all what you make of it, and I think that there's perception on either side. I mean, I'm not. If your interpretation is you're going to get on a pro team, there's a chance. If you're really, really good, like a diamond in the rough, you might. There are people that have done it. Statistically, you're going to at least get skills to get you there eventually, and I think that's the point of the combine. So that's my opinion on the subject.
I mean, as much like any other like pro clinic, also you can think of is why would you pay to go there? Is the basic concept of is that you want to learn from the best. Is that's where I kind of see where the pro like combine comes from. Like personally, like for me myself is like Nick Sloviak is always a huge supporter of the combine. Is that he like for me like personally as a player. I've always looked up to Nick Sloviak's like standpoint on paintball, kind of like wanting to be committed, wanting to learn, kind of wanting to teach and grow. And that's where I feel like the combine is a huge, like almost beneficial thing. Is that if you're a player that wanting to start out in paintball, it's a great thing to go join. Like if you have the money and the financial resource to go join the combine, go learn from it. Like I personally, like for me, like I watch a lot of your guys's, like I know like Legends Laura, or is it Lori?
Lori,
Yeah, Lori, like always, she runs the BKI like Facebook page, right, or the Boston Paintball Facebook page.
Yeah, we all. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I use this reference a lot, and I think in paintball it kind of makes the most sense in terms of, I think everybody will understand this. There's certain businesses you could be in, like you work for SBLI, like an insurance company. They pay somebody just to tweet all day. That guy makes $60,000 a year just to put out a tweet. In paintball, you can't be you can't do one thing, right? You can't be a butter knife. You can't be a spork. You got to be a Swiss Army knife. You got to be able to do 50 things, right? So all of us kind of do different things. But Laurie, Laurie, Jesus, she's amazing. So she does pretty much all of our social media for Boston Paintball. She runs the NEPL, all the coordination for that. She's like the Tom Cole, basically, of the NEPL. She does all of BKI's logistical stuff. She runs the combine. Yeah, I mean, behind the scenes, she's the heart and soul of it, basically. I mean, So she's not wrenching on guns. She's not selling guns. That's other people's job to do. But Laurie,
it's your job, T2. Calm down.
Yeah.
But I mean, like the same concept is that you have people like that in the industry that will learn and meet other people. Is like magic, or I won't say magically, but a couple of years ago when I was playing with the Warbirds, much like the shirt I'm wearing right now, T2, is I did do a wardrobe change just for you because I knew you were coming on. This was our 2017 BCA awareness shirt that we did with like kind of in tune with you guys. Is that magically, like my name got brought up during a meeting that we had, I want to say, I think it was at maybe a World Cup, that we met with John from GI, we went with Lori, we went with John Dresser. And luckily enough, like I was able to kind of come because I was one of the sober adults at the time. That I was able to come meet with that meeting and kind of like talk about what paintball, what we can do as a community to join together in Minnesota to kind of help grow the sport. And the first thing Lori looked at me and she said, "You're John," because you saw my truck outside. She was like, "You're John from MidWest Clothing, aren't you?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's me." And she's like, first thing she meant was, "I love the shirts you guys did." And like on that aspect is kind of growing as a community, is that like even Lori and you guys on the East Coast, like Lori would have never met me in person unless it was because of paintball.
Yeah.
And that was kind of, for me, like as a personal business owner, was that it was like, holy shit, like there's a business owner that does awesome autocross. Who's like me and you, T2, we always talk every once in a while about random comments and random shit we want to like do together. But it's the like magical that like, I mean, I'm pretty sure it's Lori is kind of like your boss, right? And concept.
So Anthony kind of is the overhead that owns everything under the umbrella.
Okay.
I kind of work. We cross over a lot of the time. So I mean, I handle kind of the retail side of everything, product development. I kind of handle my own social media stuff, but we do cross over a little bit. I mean, Laura's been with so by seniority, yeah, sure. She's been with the company for 24 years out of the 28. I've been with the company for about 18. So we've been there for a long time. So but I mean, we don't really, I don't even look at Anthony as my boss, right? I mean, he's my boss in the way that he signs my checks, but the decisions that we make as a company, we make together. I mean, all of our feedback is taken in. So like, yes, I report to people, but like we all report to each other because whatever decision you're making, like you got to answer to everybody next to you. So that's kind of the way.
That was like much like with me when like Aaron Freyer's with the company with MidWest Clothing. It was a lot of it's he would design stuff, but I'm the one writing the checks. So I was like, okay, yep, I agree with that. Sure, why not?
Aaron's really good people, dude. He's a really good guy.
Like I love him. Big congrats to him and his wife for having his kid a little bit over a year ago and stuff like that. Like for him, anyone that's wondering about MidWest Clothing, what happened with Aaron, for him personally with his family and needing a stable job, that's kind of why he left the company. I mean, me and Aaron literally talk like damn near almost every day.
Trust me, there's much greener. Like the thing is with paintball, it's a grind. It's it's tough, and especially when you start adding, you compound things, right? If you're when you're 19, 20 years old and you start in the industry, you don't really have a whole lot of stuff you got to worry about. And then when you add a girlfriend, then a wife, then a house, then a kid, then another kid, then now all of a sudden paintball, like it just can't
get out of here, wife.
Yeah. Ooh.
But Dustin, you have mine like popped out right now, buddy.
I'm gonna have to like listen back on this. I can't hear a word that T2's saying.
Oh,
really? Yeah.
So T2, don't think I'm trying to be disrespectful.
Oh no! Can you guys hear me?
I'm gonna go back and watch this when Brad posts it and get lessoned.
We
you want to call it?
Yeah, we had this audio issue which sometimes happens, and we talked about it before. You can hear him, he can't hear you.
No.
But it's just one of those weird things. But
so he can't hear what I'm saying right now.
I think he can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me now?
I can't hear him.
Oh, you can't hear him, but he can hear you. Or you can hear him.
Please.
He can't hear you.
Relay this.
Yeah,
I
can't
wasn't.
hear
I wasn't.
I can hear you, Brad. I can hear Frankie.
I wasn't being disrespectful to him in the least at all.
No.
To be honest, I actually wasn't even going to jump on because I didn't want to hijack the stream at all. I'd love to come on and do something like this. You're amazing at yourself.
Dustin, he just said that he didn't want to hijack everything and make it about him, but since you can't hear it, now he's hijacking everything and making it about him. So you sit there, you're gonna have to re-listen to everything anyway.
I had 15 minutes to myself where it was just me talking. So
right.
Still talk.
We got you, bro. You sit back and just look good. That's perfect. That's perfect.
No, but really, I mean, all this stuff aside, just Brad, honestly, thank you for doing something to keep people kind of engaged in paintball right now. Because let's face it, man, the world's absolutely crazy right now, and I'm bored, man.
My daughter left like 2 days ago, and I just sat here looking at my dog, and I've been in the house for about 2 weeks now, and I'm just like, I got to do something. So 2 or 3 days ago, I started doing this. Didn't have a name, didn't have anything. Just I know I have funny friends who tell great stories, and they call me all the time because they're bored. I'm like, let's record it, let's put it out there, and just so it's organic.
But you meet new people too. Like
absolutely. Our paths have crossed many times, but I don't know you. And that's one of the things that I wanted to say is that I want to have you on a program, bring other people, because these two knuckleheads have probably played themselves out already with cough medicine.
I have a couple of people. I'd love to bring Tim Furpo on, by the way.
Yes, I know Tim. Yes.
He's a riot. He's one of my best friends. I talk to him probably twice a week. So
absolutely,
he's a really good dude.
And to be honest with you, I have another podcast that's going to go not necessarily live, but I'm waiting for one of the OG Ironmen to be available. But I have the Predators and Kevin Donaldson and waiting for Dirk Gadberry from the Ironmen. And as soon as they're ready, I'll have to end this one and go over there.
Yeah,
we have plenty of time to talk. It should be within 15, 20, 30 minutes. I feel bad
because Dustin, hold on a minute. Dustin is muted. I see him muted on here, but it's probably
he's in timeout. Dustin's in timeout.
I accept it.
But in all honesty, though,
he accepts it. It's okay. It's okay. He carried us. I don't know if you lived through the technical difficulties where I was getting hijacked by Mojo. But
I've been kind of like, my kids are obviously home. We've been stuck in the house for 2 weeks. I've gone, to be honest, I mean, if I do one with you or whatever, it's gonna be probably to recap stuff. But since the quarantine in Boston, we're getting hit real fucking hard here. Like it's bad. Yeah. So they shut our field down, officially shut it down last week. So we were restricted to 25 people or less in the building. We tried to do it and it just wasn't a thing. And eventually they pulled the plug. But I actually used the opportunity to just go in and do an inventory in our shops because I'm the only one there. I'm not interacting with anybody.
Right.
So when will I ever have the chance to have 3 weeks of downtime? Never. Like it's never a thing. So I've literally gone in and inventoried all of our shops. So
with this being said, though, T2, hard-hitting question. When's the Twister LV 1.6 coming out?
What's that? We're having audio issues again. I didn't hear.
Yeah, the LV 1.6 Twister. When is that coming out, brother?
Having trouble hearing you again, man. It's
I'm sorry. Apparently, Frankie is having audio issues as well.
It's a crazy time right now on the internet, man. I'm having trouble hearing you. I'm hearing every other word. So sorry.
Too much stay at home. Well, guys, I'm not saying goodbye because I'm still waiting for everybody else, but I wanted to say that it was great to talk to you guys. I was, I like to talk to you guys. I'd like to talk to more of the Air Assault guys. I invited Dirt and Chris Noddings to do an episode and whatever. So I'm stuck in at home. I just got to take care of my daughter and my dog, and she's obviously in another room for hours and doesn't need dad. So
I don't even know where my daughter is. She might be burning the house down around me right now.
right. So I appreciate your guys' time and everything.
For sure.
Thank you for giving us a venue.
Just while we have a little bit of a chance for me to get a word in.
Go do it. I will leave you guys be.
Since I can't hear you T2. So I did go back and look at what you had wrote. Next.
Well, now you can hear each other.
Yeah, I can hear you. Now can you hear me?
Him still.
Oh no.
I still can't hear him.
I can hear him.
But the next chance, I just looking back at what he had wrote while we were talking earlier. Next chance I get, I'm gonna have Frankie introduce me to you. I really want to talk to you further, and I'll go back and watch this when Brad posts it. I'd love to learn more from you. So just
I won't
just throwing that out there.
Not a whole lot to share.
Love fest. Practice social distancing. A few 100 miles is good.
Yeah.
Me and Dustin's social distancing was through my car window yesterday, so it's fine.
Anthony, for the people in the room or listening who don't know you, let's give you your official title and job.
Okay. I'm the head storm chaser over at Boston Paintball. So I work for Boston Paintball, Committed Paintball. I'm in charge of development, branding, assembly of the Twister brand. So the autocockers, all the stuff we've done, future projects. We've worked with Planet Eclipse. We've worked with a couple other people over the years, Simon Stevens, Empire. So when we worked with Dye, did the Entity M3S a couple years ago. We've done classic autocockers. So really, I'm kind of head of retail at Boston Paintball. I run Committed Paintball, and I make custom guns. That is, I guess, technically me in a nutshell. This is me in a nutshell. How to get into this nutshell.
Absolutely. Thank you. I was going to get you right there with the Austin Powers reference. So the important thing is that I want everybody here and out there to know that I'm interested in paintball stories because I think that when there's multiple people on talking about different things, people out there are going to connect. I definitely connect with a lot of the things that these guys are saying because of knowing them for so long. But this is the longest conversation that I've had with Dustin. Frankie and I have had conversations, but this is the longest one. And I think it helps people understand people, even though we've been, Dustin and I have been at hundreds of the same places, but we just don't talk, like we should. So I wanted to take this opportunity, and I guess it's a public platform to do it. And you guys wanted to do it live, and you've behaved yourself.
For the record, I've never had a discussion with Dustin still.
Oh, yeah.
Me and T2 that way. Conversation that we World Cup in the booth, so it's just like, hey, let's talk about this. And it's like, hey, T2, the CS2 coming out. It's never coming out. 3 months later, damn it, T2, why did you tell me?
You didn't bring me enough free beers to my tent. I would have probably told you everything.
I guess I now know T2. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So then what I will do is I will wrap this up, and I will say that I have one podcast or one interview, because people keep saying this isn't podcast, you're on video, guy, but it's just that vibe. I don't give a.
It's 2020, man. It's,
right.
Yeah.
right. I'm just going to talk with some, classic guys here for a while, and tomorrow I'm open. Tonight I might be open.
You know what? I will talk. I'll talk to Tim Furpo and see if he's around. I'm sure he's got nothing going on.
Absolutely,
So
and
I'd love to jump on. But you know what? I feel really bad that I kind of hijacked here. But everybody that's out there, Midwest Clothing, these guys right over here are amazing, and they've done. I've had the pleasure of working with them in the past. They do amazing stuff, not just charitable things, but you guys make great products. And please, just every paintball company, even small or big, try and support them right now. It's a really tough time for everybody, and as hard as it is to make money in paintball right now, it's even harder right now for everybody. So, even if it's just one headband for these guys, or a jersey or a T-shirt, whatever they have, do something to support these guys, honestly, because I want them to be around for a long time. So that's all I'm going to say.
Great message. And with that, we will sign off. And guys, again, thank you. And we will do this soon.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Frankie. Thank you, Dustin. Well, that was interesting to say the least. Thank you all very much. This was our first live episode of everything. Thank you, Frankie from Midwest Clothing, Dustin for your time, T2 from Boston Paintball, and for you guys for putting up with our craziness and dysfunction. So thank you all very much. Have a great day.